Hank Pearl with thedailyrock.com on the tour bus of Immolation, sitting with Ross, talking with him right before his last show on the tour here in Chicago. Last show of the tour.
Yeah, last show.
This one's seen a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been really good, man. It's our third time out with Vader. You know, we've toured with them. This is our second time here out with them in the States, and we've toured with them in Europe before. So we've been tight with those guys for a long time. Peter, I've known since like '88. We were pen pals, you know, exchanging demos back in the day. So Pete's a great guy, and we've been good friends for a while. You know, and we have the Lecherous Nocturne guys with us, who are a phenomenal band. You know, great musicians, good guys. I think they've added a lot to the tour. They're very pro guys. Abigail Williams adds a little bit of a black metal flavor to the tour, which is nice. And like I said, we had Pathology at the beginning, and they dropped off in San Diego. So this is kind of like, you know, an on the way to the Nile tour show for them. So, yeah, it's been a fun tour. I mean, everybody got along great. Everybody helped out. It's been a good vibe the whole tour, which is kind of all we really give a shit about. And having a good time and getting to play our stuff, you know.
Everybody's friends and everybody's partying?
Yeah, more or less, yeah. It's been good, man. You know, all the guys are great.
How you guys been hanging out after the shows and whatnot? Just sitting around talking and drinking, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really party. Some of the guys do, some of them, but it's been a low key, nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? The Vader guys are usually in bed right after the show, you know, and you know we don't really party, the rest of us. So you know we just hang out and chill, and you know we're all about the food on this tour, you know.
So now with the tour coming to an end after tonight, what's always like the first night after the tour's over? You know, you get in that routine of going on the road and everything, and then you're just back at home. What is that? How do you decompress at the end of it all?
It's always very rough because you go from normalcy, from, you know, being at home with your family and your normal routine and your job and your own bed and little luxuries you take for granted, and then you're out on, you know, like the traveling circus for a month, you know. But you're with great people, and it becomes like a brotherhood, you know. You get tight with all these guys, you know, and you become really good friends, and you become, you know, good friends, and you make some good new relationships with people, and you know, it is kind of sad when it comes to an end, because then you're kind of forced to kind of disconnect from that, and then you're slapped back into the normal routine, you know, which isn't very easy, you know. It always takes a couple of days to kind of get back into the swing of things, you know what I'm saying? But we have 4 days off, and then we go right to Europe for like 6 weeks. So we really don't have time to get back into that, you know, state of normalcy, you know what I'm saying? We kind of go right from this. I'll have like 4 days at home, and then I'm off, you know, on a plane, and then we do like 6 weeks with Napalm Death and Macabre and Waking the Cadaver in Europe. So my time to kind of get back into the swing of things will be the end of December. I'll get home, I'll have about 5 days off, and then I go back to work. So it's always the first couple of days that are extremely strange, you know, especially going back to work and getting into that normal like 9 to 5 routine, you know what I'm saying? So it's always kind of weird, but you know.
Back to work.
Yeah.
What define back to work?
I'm a truck driver in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I do.
I mean, that's very interesting, because it always blows my mind how you'll go out, you'll go on tour, you'll go around the world, and you'll be known and you'll have fans, and truck driver. Or that's the same, I mean, I guess you saw Anvil, right? The documentary?
Yeah, it was great.
And the dude was working the cafeteria, right?
Sure.
Wouldn't you say that's very much similar to your scenario
Absolutely.
as well?
That's why I related to that movie so well, because I could feel their struggle. I mean, we've lived it too, you know what I'm saying? It's like we still live it, you know. It's like it's not always like, you know, people like sometimes people look at what we do and they're like, wow, you guys must be doing all right. You're superstars. You're traveling the world, and yeah, it has its moments, but it's not an easy existence. I mean, we've kind of crafted our lives around this to allow us to do this. You know what I'm saying? It's like I probably could have done a million things at home, but I've had to kind of find things that I could, you know, leave and come back to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I do well with what I do, you know what I'm saying? I have a great boss, I get paid well, and I enjoy what I do, but it's, you know, maybe would not have been my, you know, lot, you know, what I would have picked to have done, but it's convenience first, you know, to allow me to pursue what I really want to do, you know, which is this, you know, and we don't make a living off of this, but we do okay enough where we can sustain ourselves while away. But you know, it's like you still have to have the separate worlds. You have to have this world and that world, and you have to kind of balance them. So that's the trick.
New York. New York's been home to a lot of death and black metal and doom metal and whatnot over time. What with you guys, Suffocation,
Right.
Typo Negative, even Anthrax.
Sure.
What sorts of factors do you think New York has to give life to such a metal scene and have such big bands come out of it? Anything influence you particularly geographically, socially?
I think geographically that has a lot to do with it because New York is such a main hub. You know, we pretty much have everything there. You know, we get to see all the shows. You know, as opposed to someone living in like Bill is from Nebraska. You know, and you know they had to travel like hours to get to see shows, and what shows did come through. You know what I'm saying? We had everything. You know what I'm saying? From we had Lemoore in Brooklyn, which you know you could see Metallica Ride the Lightning tour, Slayer, Hell Awaits tour, Rain and Blood tour. You know, Venom at the Ritz. I mean, everybody played in New York City, so there was no lack of. You know what I'm saying? When this scene was starting to grow and thrive, I mean, everybody came through New York, you know what I'm saying? It was like, we didn't have to travel more than like 20 minutes, you know? I live like right outside of Manhattan. Yeah, geographically, that had a big hand in, I guess, allowing the scene in New York to kind of thrive, you know, because, you know, let's face it, you need a fan base and you need clubs and you need, you know, people to play to, you know, and you need other musicians, you know. If you live in a small one-horse town and you don't have any musicians who are like-minded, it's very hard to, you know, very hard. So so that had a lot to do with it, and I guess because in New York there's so much of everything. You know, there's all different cultures and ethnicities, and there's crime, and there's you know, there's a lot of stuff to draw from, you know, for inspiration. So I think it all plays a part, I would imagine. I mean, for me, it was just, you know, I had a bunch of friends who were into the music, and we kind of grew into it, you know, from not so heavier stuff to much heavier stuff. It was a natural progression for me. So, you know, I guess it allowed me to expand my musical horizons because everything was very accessible, you know. So I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have been if I lived in Kansas or wherever, you know, but so. Sure, cool. It's a factor.
All right. Metal Immolation is always, every album you keep driving forward and you keep really building onto the genre. What was the creative process surrounding this album?
Yeah, we don't really put too much thought into it as some people might think we do. I mean, we just start out with a clean slate and say, okay, let's just write something that's really good, that we're really going to like. We don't try to outdo ourselves. We don't try to, you know, one-up the last release, because I think that's kind of self-defeating. You know what I'm saying? So we just go in with clean heads, and we just say to ourselves, okay, it's time. Let's write something good. And we kind of know what we want, you know, and we want out of it. And the fact that we, you know, had time for a proper pre-production this time, and we were actually able to work out a lot of the stuff prior to getting in the studio. And the fact that we recorded at Millbrook this time with Paul Orfino, but had Zach Oren mix it on the West Coast, I think added a lot, and it brought out a lot and made it a much more powerful production, you know, much stronger and cleaner in a lot of the ways. The drums are pretty much there this time. You could hear what Steve's doing, which is nice for a change, you know. And yeah, but I mean, like I said, we don't really ever try to outdo ourselves. We just kind of know what we're looking for, you know. And I think with this one, we have a good mix between like some of the older stuff and some of the newer stuff. You know, we didn't try for that. It's just the way it came out.